The wind howled like a wild beast, rattling the steel bones of the mining colony's outskirts. Snow pelted down in angry sheets, covering the land in a shroud of white silence. Somewhere within that frozen world, a small figure stumbled forward, his thin feet sinking deep into the snow. He was just a child, an alien child with skin the color of pale moons and wide, shimmering black eyes. His body was wrapped in a torn cloth, no shoes, no coat, nothing to shield him from the bitter storm. He couldn't have been older than 6. His lips trembled with each breath. "Mama." It came out like a broken whisper, lost in the wind. His legs gave out. He collapsed face first into the snow, small fingers clawing at the ice in desperation. Snowflakes gathered on his eyelashes. The cold bit into his skin like knives. He curled up, arms wrapped around his knees, shaking violently. "Mama, where are you?" His eyes fluttered. Darkness closed in. And then, far in the distance, a pair of headlights cut through the blizzard. Marcus drove a battered snow truck through the outer perimeter of the zone. The storm had worsened since the last broadcast, turning the mining colony's usual icy chill into a violent whiteout. He was used to harsh weather. He'd lived 3 winters on this frozen outpost. But even he knew this one was different. Too angry. Too fast. He squinted through the frosted windshield. "Shouldn't be anyone out here," he muttered. Then something flickered in the edge of his vision. A shape. A movement. He slammed the brakes. Snow crunched as he jumped out, flashlight in hand. The cold struck him like a wall. He gritted his teeth and pushed forward. "Hello? Anyone there?" A small form lay half buried in the snow. Marcus ran forward, heart racing. It was a child. Not human. But he didn't care. He dropped to his knees and brushed snow from the small face. The child's skin was nearly blue from cold, his lips purple, his eyes open but barely moving. Hey, kid, stay with me. Come on." Marcus wrapped his coat around the boy and lifted him up, cradling the fragile body to his chest. "I got you. You're going to be okay." He rushed back to the truck and slammed the door shut behind him. He turned on every heater he had. The inside fogged quickly. "Come on, little guy, breathe." Marcus unwrapped his gloves and pressed them to the child's hands. He opened a thermal pack and warmed a nutrition gel. Carefully, he lifted the boy's head and let a drop fall on his lips. Slowly, the boy coughed. "Mama." Marcus froze. "You were with your mom." A weak nod. Marcus looked out the frosted window, the blizzard still raging. Damn it. He wrapped the child tightly in blankets, placing him in the warmed passenger seat. "I'm going to find her," he said softly, "I promise." He marked the truck's location on his portable nav then, wrapping himself tightly in gear, he stepped back into the storm. Snow lashed at his face as he trudged forward, flashlight sweeping across endless white. "Hello? Is anyone out here?" "Nothing." He climbed over a ridge, feet slipping. His breath came hard, the air sharp as glass. Then, a sound. A soft cough. He ran. A few meters ahead, slumped near a snow-covered rock, lay a woman. Her skin was pale gray, her long dark hair matted with ice. Marcus dropped to his knees. "You're his mother, aren't you?" Her eyes opened slowly. They were the same as the boy's. She tried to speak, but her lips barely moved. "He's safe," Marcus said quickly, "your son. I found him. He's alive." Her expression collapsed. A single frozen tear slid down her cheek. Marcus didn't hesitate. He lifted her up, her body limp and freezing. "I've got you. Both of you." It took twice as long to return. The storm fought him with every step. But eventually, he reached the truck. He laid her beside her son, wrapped them both in blankets. She stirred weakly. The boy opened his eyes. "Mama!" She sobbed, pulling him close. Marcus watched from the front seat, his breath catching. He had seen wars. Hunger. Cruelty. But this hit different. As the heaters hummed and the storm continued to roar outside, the small space inside the truck held a fragile kind of peace. Tree, the alien mother, had already accepted death when Marcus found her. She'd walked for hours, each step slower than the last. The cold burned her lungs. Her limbs trembled. She had hidden her son in a hollow tree. "Stay," she whispered to him, "I will come back." But she hadn't expected to survive. Her kind were hated. Unwanted. Pushed out. When the storm hit, she knew the colony guards wouldn't help her. They wouldn't help her child. So she walked. She crawled. She bled. And when her body gave out, she had accepted it. But then, a voice. Light. Arms. Warmth. And now, she lay inside something she never expected, safety. She blinked. Her son slept beside her, chest rising and falling. Across the space, a man sat, watching quietly. Human. Scarred. But his eyes were kind. "Why, help us," she whispered. He stood slowly. "Because no one else would." She stared at him. Confused. "You are human." He nodded. "Marcus." She didn't reply. In her experience, humans ignored her. Spat at her. Sometimes worse. But this one had lifted her from the snow. Her son stirred. "Mama." "I'm here," she whispered, arms closing around him. Marcus placed a water bottle beside them. "Drink. You both need it." She hesitated. Then let her son sip first. When he coughed, she tensed. "It's okay," Marcus said. "Just too fast. Let him sip slowly." Her eyes widened. He cared. She looked up. "You not afraid of us?" Marcus shook his head. "Afraid of a mother trying to save her kid?" "No." A long silence passed. Outside, the storm shrieked. Inside, warmth lingered. And something else bloomed. Trust. Slowly. A fragile beginning. The storm outside howled into the long hours of night, but inside the steel belly of the snow truck, it was warm. The heaters hummed, the frost thawed from the windows, and for the first time in hours, the alien child's breathing came steady and calm. Marcus sat on the floor beside a toolkit, running maintenance checks on the battery grid. Tree sat near the back, her knees drawn to her chest, arms wrapped around her son. Her eyes never left the boy. Marcus glanced over. "He looks better." Tree gave a slow nod. His color returned. "He's not shaking now." Marcus smiled faintly. "Good." Silence fell between them again, not heavy, but cautious. The kind that lived between strangers forced into the same space by survival. The child stirred, opened his eyes. Tree leaned close and whispered in her native tongue, soft clicks and vowels foreign to Marcus. The boy blinked, his eyes locking onto the human. "He remembers you," Tree said quietly. Marcus moved closer. "What's his name?" Tree hesitated. "Sora." Marcus nodded. "Hi, Sora." The boy blinked again. His lips parted slightly. Then, in a thin, raspy voice, he said, "Hi." Tree's head snapped around. She looked at her son, stunned. Marcus tilted his head. Was that the first time he spoke since? She nodded, tears welling. Since the camps. He stopped. They took so many. He stopped speaking to survive. Marcus was quiet for a long time. Then he said softly, "Well, he's safe now." Tree brushed a trembling hand through her son's hair. She didn't know what to make of this human. He hadn't asked her name, hadn't demanded anything, hadn't treated her like an enemy. She studied him in the low heater light. Weathered, rough around the edges, but calm. His face had the lines of a man who'd lived through too much, and yet still chose to help. "Why are you alone out here?" she asked. Marcus gave a small shrug. "I work salvage. Alone's cheaper. But it is dangerous. So is trusting people." Tree looked down. Truth. She didn't ask more. Didn't offer her story. Not yet. Marcus stood and fetched food packs. He warmed 3, placing one beside Tree. "It's protein broth. Safe, I promise." She eyed it, then passed it to Sora. He sipped it slowly. When he didn't react, she took her own cup and drank. Warmth spread through her limbs. Real warmth, not just physical. It came from being seen. Treated like a person. "You could have left him," she said suddenly. Marcus blinked. "What?" "You could have seen a child in the snow and turned away. Many would. Humans, many of them hate us." Marcus didn't answer immediately. He stirred his broth, then set it aside. "I was that kid once. Alone. Abandoned in a fire zone after a colony raid. Someone saved me. A soldier. Never knew his name. Never saw him again. But he pulled me out of the rubble. Gave me a blanket. Food. Hope. He looked over. So now I do the same." Tree stared at him, breath caught. Her lips parted, but no words came. Instead, she looked at Sora, who had curled into the blanket and was drifting off to sleep. Marcus set up emergency bedding closer to the heater. He gestured toward it. "You can use it." "No." "You sure?" "I stay with him. Always." Marcus gave a quiet nod and made his own bed near the door. They settled into a rhythm. One heater running, lights low, rations split 3 ways. Every few hours, Marcus checked the battery levels. Each time, he gave Tree a soft update. She never responded with words. Just a nod. On the second night, the storm began to ease. The howling turned to groaning. Then, eventually, to silence. Marcus peeked outside and saw snow piled nearly to the windows. "We're snowed in, but the wind stopped," he said. Tree stood beside him, Sora in her arms. "How long until rescue?" Marcus shook his head. "No one knows we're out here. I don't send check-ins. Too off-grid." She looked alarmed. "Then we die here." "No," he said calmly. "Once the weather clears, I dig us out. I'll take you both to the outpost. There are places you can stay. People who help refugees." She stared at him. Then said, slowly, "No one ever says that. Not to me. They should." She turned away, hugging Sora tighter. That night, something shifted. Sora crawled from the bedding and sat beside Marcus as he repaired a heating panel. "You fixing?" Sora asked. Marcus grinned. "Yeah, buddy. Fixing." Tree watched, heart in her throat. Her son hadn't spoken 2 full sentences in nearly a year. Marcus handed Sora a screw. "Can you hold this?" Sora nodded solemnly. They worked together in silence. Tree lay down that night, listening to her son breathing. He hadn't cried. He hadn't screamed. And for the first time, she didn't feel alone in the dark. She whispered into the still air, "Thank you." She didn't know if Marcus heard. But he smiled in the dark. The third day began in silence. Soft light filtered through the truck's narrow window slits, casting pale bars across the blankets piled in the corners. Sora was still asleep, his small face relaxed in peace. Tree sat with her back against the wall, watching him. Marcus crouched by the battery panel, frowning. 26% left, he muttered. Tree didn't look up. How long will that last? 2 days if we're careful. Maybe less. The core heater eats more power the colder it gets. She nodded slowly. And the food? Marcus opened a ration kit. 6 packs. We skip a meal each, and we might stretch it to 3 days. Tree exhaled. What happens if it storms again? Marcus didn't answer right away. He looked at her, then at Sora. Then we wait. And we survive. Tree's jaw tightened, but she nodded. Later that morning, she helped him rewrap the insulation around the doorframe. Their hands brushed once. Both paused. Neither pulled away. Marcus glanced at her. You ever done this before? She smirked faintly. I was an engineer, before. Before the camps. She hesitated, then nodded. Before the war. Before we lost. Marcus said nothing. Not yet. He didn't press. He just handed her the next strip of sealant tape. When they finished, he offered her a water ration. She drank slowly, her eyes never leaving his. Why do you act like we matter? She asked. Most humans, you know what they called us on the refugee line? Snow rats. Parasites. Not people. Marcus leaned against the wall and ran a hand through his beard. I don't care what most humans think. I only care about what I do. But why? Why care at all? He looked at her then, really looked. Because someone did it for me. And because when I saw your kid in the snow, he didn't look like an alien. He looked like a boy who was going to die. And I couldn't let that happen. Tree turned her head sharply. Not to hide her expression, but to hide the way her chest tightened. She had known kindness before. And she had seen it turn. I don't trust easily, she said. Good. You shouldn't. That surprised her. Marcus stood and began sorting through a supply bin. A few minutes later, he pulled out a heat lantern. Power's dropping too fast. At night, we'll switch to this. It's low range but safe. Sora woke after midday. His first words were not, Mama, or, hungry. He said, light. Pretty. Marcus grinned. That's right, buddy. Warm too. That evening, they sat around the lantern's soft glow. Tree fed Sora a piece of rationed bread. The boy took small bites, his gaze flicking between the two adults. Do you have children? Tree asked quietly. Marcus shook his head. No, never found someone who made it feel possible. And now? He looked at her. Held her gaze. I don't know. Maybe I stopped believing in the future long ago. Tree said nothing. A crackling sound filled the air, not from the heaters, but from the calm line. Marcus scrambled to it. Static. Must be a signal boost from the mining station. Storm must be clearing. Maybe tomorrow it'll be strong enough for a call. You have friends there? He hesitated. One. Rika. She handles off-grid aid. Maybe she can help you. Help us how? Get new IDs. Housing. Maybe a way off-world. Tree looked at him for a long time. Then said, You risked all this for strangers. Not strangers anymore, he replied. Not to me. That night, Tree didn't sleep. Not fully. She sat beside the heater, watching Sora dream. His hands twitched. He murmured soft things in his sleep. Once, he giggled. She hadn't heard him giggle since before the war. Marcus lay near the door again. Not watching her. Just resting. Tree reached out and draped a second blanket over him. He didn't open his eyes. "Thank you," he whispered. She pulled her hand back slowly. In the morning, when the wind finally stilled and the gray light brightened into day, Tree stepped outside for the first time. Marcus had shoveled the path open. The world was a sea of white hills. Still and pure. Sora clung to her leg but peeked around with wide eyes. "Snow monsters gone?" he asked. Marcus chuckled. "For now, little man." They sat around a fire that afternoon. Marcus used a solar lens to spark it, and they ate their thinnest rations, but the meal still felt whole. Tree looked at the flames. Then at Marcus. "I used to be someone." He didn't speak. Just waited. "I was a commander in the West Defense. We held against the first human incursion." Marcus raised his eyebrows. "Commander?" "I led 300. By the end, I had 23. When the walls fell, we were forced to kneel or be burned. I chose survival. Her voice broke. "I let them put chains on us. I let them take my name. They marked me as worker class. My son was born in the mine blocks." Marcus put down his cup. "You fought for him. You walked through a blizzard for him. You haven't failed him." Tears slid down her cheeks. She didn't wipe them away. "You don't know what they did to us." "I don't," Marcus said gently. "But I can listen." And he did. For the rest of that day, and into the night, she told him everything. And he didn't interrupt once. The sky turned iron gray by the fourth morning, the sun a pale disk smothered by clouds. Marcus stood outside, his breath a mist in the frozen air, clearing the last of the snow from around the truck. Behind him, Sora laughed quietly as he stomped his tiny boots through shallow drifts. Tree followed closely, eyes wary but soft. "He seems stronger," Marcus said, glancing back. "He is. He slept well," Tree replied. "You gave him that." Marcus didn't answer. He simply nodded and turned back to his shovel. Together, they checked the solar panel mounted on the roof. The weak sun offered little charge, but it was enough to extend battery life by a few hours. Every minute counted now. That afternoon, as they boiled a small pot of broth, a silence settled over the group. Not tense, not fearful, simply quiet. A moment of shared survival. Tree caught Marcus watching her. "What?" "Just thinking. About the night I found your son. About what would have happened if I'd been an hour later." She looked away. "He would have died. So would I." Marcus stirred the broth. "But you didn't. That matters." As dusk fell, the comm unit crackled again. Stronger this time. Marcus rushed to it. "This is Unit 4A7, stranded near Ridge 12 of Sector Frostline. Requesting aid. 3 occupants. Low power. Coordinates transmitting." He waited. Static. Then, faintly, acknowledged. "Signal weak. Aid delayed due to storm activity. Hold position." Marcus cursed under his breath. "Storms returning." Tree's posture stiffened. "How bad?" "If it's like the last one, we could be sealed in again for days." Tree moved quickly, pulling Sora toward the back of the truck. "We prepare," she said simply. Marcus watched her, a strange pride blooming in his chest. She had shifted over the days, still wary, still guarded, but her strength was returning. Not just for Sora. For herself. They moved in silent coordination. Marcus checked the heater core. Tree reinforced the door seams. Sora gathered blankets and placed them carefully along the back wall. Night came fast, dragging with it a biting wind. The first flakes drifted down like ash. Inside, the truck glowed faintly with the heat lantern. The heater was off to conserve energy, their breaths fogging the air. Marcus and Tree sat near each other, backs against opposite walls. Sora was curled up in a cocoon of warmth between them. When I was taken, Tree began suddenly, her voice low, they shaved our heads. Made us wear numbered tags. We became units, not people. Marcus said nothing. I stopped speaking. Not out of fear. Out of rage. They thought silence meant obedience. But really, it meant defiance. Marcus met her eyes. It worked. You survived. Surviving isn't the same as living. But now you're doing both. She didn't respond. She didn't need to. That night, as the storm returned in full, something changed again. The truck groaned under pressure. Wind howled like a beast trying to claw its way in. And then. Thump. Marcus sat up straight. What was that? Tree froze. Another thump. Followed by the sound of snow shifting. Footsteps, she whispered. Marcus reached for the tool wrench. Tree slid closer to Sora and wrapped him tighter in the blankets. Another sound. A drag. A scrape. Marcus moved to the door. Just as he reached it, a shadow passed the frost-covered window. He held his breath. Then a loud bang. Something slammed into the side of the truck. Sora cried out. Tree pulled him close, whispering to calm him. Stay here, Marcus said, gripping the wrench. No, Tree said, standing. We fight together. He looked at her. Something in her eyes told him she meant it. Take this, he said, handing her a metal rod. Another thud. Closer now. Something was definitely circling them. A growl. Not human. Marcus cracked the door open. Snow blasted in. He shone his light outside, nothing. Then, movement to the left. Large. Low to the ground. It disappeared behind a snowbank. I saw it, he whispered. Big. Fast. Could be a predator. Maybe one of the old native beasts. You said they were extinct. I said I hoped. Another bang. Then stillness. The storm howled, but whatever was out there had stopped moving. Marcus shut the door and secured it. They sat in silence, weapons in hand. Sora had gone quiet. Too quiet. Tree stroked his head. He's terrified. We hold out till morning. Sun might drive it off. The hours passed slowly. Every creak of metal made them tense. Every gust sounded like claws. But the creature never came back. By dawn, the storm was gone again. Marcus opened the door carefully. The world was untouched, blanketed in fresh snow. No tracks. No blood. Nothing. He closed it and turned to Tree. Maybe it moved on. She looked at him. Or maybe it's waiting. That day, they kept the heater off to save power. Instead, they huddled together. For warmth. For comfort. Marcus noticed Tree watching him as he dozed. What is it? I keep waiting for this to break. It won't. Everything breaks eventually. Not this. Not if we hold on. Tree stared at him. Then nodded. I believe you. Marcus smiled. Then we're already halfway there. The fifth morning dawned with eerie calm. No wind, no snowfall. Just gray light filtering down over the snow-blanketed world, muffling every sound. Marcus stepped out into the stillness. The storm had passed, leaving the terrain bright and brittle. He shielded his eyes, scanning the horizon. No movement. No creature. No tracks. He turned back to the truck and stepped inside. Tree was feeding Sora tiny bites of rationed bread, whispering something in their tongue. The boy smiled, a small crumb on his lip. Marcus watched them quietly, letting the warmth of that simple scene thaw something in his chest. "Weather's clear," he said. "Might be our last chance. If the station picks up the signal again, they'll come. If not, we walk." Tree nodded. "How far?" 6 clicks. "Through rough snow. Half a day, if we don't stop." She looked at Sora. "He can't walk that far." Marcus gave a small smile. "I'll carry him." That settled it. They packed what they could. 3 ration packs. 2 bottles of meltwater. 1 heat rod. Blankets tied into a makeshift sling. Tree bundled Sora against her chest, then handed him gently to Marcus. "If anything happens," she began. "Nothing will," he said. They set off. The snow crunched underfoot, soft and thick. The air was sharp but not deadly. For a while, all was quiet save the rhythm of their breath and steps. Around the halfway mark, they reached the ridge, the highest point between their truck and the outpost. From there, the colony buildings were barely visible in the distance, dark dots against endless white. "We're close," Marcus said. "Just past that basin." Tree didn't answer. Her body had grown tense. "What is it?" "Listen." Marcus stopped. The wind had returned. Not fierce. Not howling. But steady. And with it, the faintest sound, a low scraping. It followed us. Marcus turned slowly. A shape moved on the far ridge. Too far to see clearly. Too big to be anything natural. "Run," Tree whispered. They didn't look back. They ran. Sora clung tightly to Marcus, his face buried in his coat. Tree stayed close, stumbling once but catching herself. Snow burst around their legs as they sprinted down into the basin. Breath came in painful gasps. Behind them, the scrape turned into a crunch. A growl. Marcus saw the fence of the outpost. Almost there. But the growl was closer now. Louder. Tree turned and saw it, a creature, low and sleek, fur spiked with ice, glowing eyes locked onto them. Marcus thrust Sora into her arms. "Get him inside." "No. Go." He turned and stood his ground, wrench raised. Tree ran, Sora in her arms. Her legs burned, lungs on fire. Behind her, she heard Marcus shout. She reached the gate. A guard tower blinked to life. "Help," she screamed. A spotlight flared. Voices shouted. A gate opened. Blaster fire rang out. Tree collapsed just inside the gate, Sora clutched tight. Seconds later, 2 guards dragged Marcus in, bleeding but alive. Close it, one barked. Metal slammed. The world fell still again. Marcus lay on the floor, his side torn, breathing hard. Tree crawled to him, hands shaking. "You idiot," she whispered. "You should have run." He smiled faintly. "I promised I'd get him here. Didn't say how." Sora leaned down and kissed Marcus on the cheek. Tree blinked fast. For the next few days, the outpost doctors worked on Marcus. Tree and Sora were given shelter, clean beds, food. On the 3rd night, Tree sat beside Marcus's bed, watching him sleep. His face was pale, his bandaged side rising slowly with each breath. Sora curled beside her, warm and safe. "You saved him," she whispered. Marcus opened his eyes. "You both saved me." She looked at him, something fragile flickering in her eyes. "You still think this isn't broken?" "Not broken," he said. "Just healing." Silence stretched between them. Then Tree reached for his hand. Can we stay with you? Marcus closed his fingers around hers. Please. And that was the beginning. Weeks later, they moved into a quiet home on the edge of the outpost. Tree began working as a tech repair specialist. Marcus taught basic wilderness survival to new colonists. Sora went to school. He laughed often now. One evening, as the wind howled outside their warm new shelter, Tree stood beside Marcus at the window. Do you think we'll ever leave this place? Marcus thought a moment. Maybe. Or maybe this is where something good begins. She leaned her head on his shoulder. I never believed in beginnings. Not until you. He said nothing. He just held her hand. Outside, the snow fell again. But inside, they were warm. And for the first time in a very long time, they were home.